What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Real Talks podcast. My name is Mike Singletary.
And I am Frank Chen, and we are going to be your hosts. And what we're going to do is break down what it takes to live life on your terms through entrepreneurship, specifically real estate investing.
So we're going to hit it hard, the good, the bad, and the real, because that climb, as any entrepreneur knows, is never smooth. So let's get real.
What's going on, Stratton?
You guys so much for having me.
Awesome. Welcome to the show, Stratton. I'm excited, man. I know our paths have crossed in the past. This might be our first, well, I've talked to you on the phone before, but this is our actual first video-to-video interaction. So it's great to have you on the show, man.
Yeah. Again, thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah,
Awesome.
did we leave out anything on the intro, bro? Is there anything going on that we didn't talk about?
We have our 7-figure real estate portfolio. We do have our company, virtualhelp.io. We're spinning back up a wholesaling company again, more on like the sub 2 side.
Yeah.
Because I kind of wound it down because I didn't need it because we had other companies that were making money. And then just like the economy goes down, some stuff goes down, other stuff goes up. And I really think there's going to be a really big opportunity buying creatively over the next couple of years, like sub 2 and stuff. And I'm really interested in buying stuff, wrapping it, and selling off some third position notes. I don't know if you guys know who Eric Sage is, but he does a lot of that. And so I think that could be really, really interesting here in the next couple of years, and then keep buying storage and keep buying, adding to our rental portfolio, because we do need the tax write-offs. That's the best benefit of real estate.
So I did some research on you, and I got to say, I don't typically do. It's like, hey, get the bio, let's go. But I know you have such an interesting background and story behind you. I know you played like college football, right? Or was it college, or was it college?
Yeah, I played college football, tried out for the Seahawks. Nothing really came from it.
I gotcha. And
What position?
I played safety and corner.
Gotcha.
Right on, man. And I also noticed that you have been buying self-storage, checked on your Facebook page. You kind of recently bought a deal. So you were known as the wholesale guy before, right? And you kind of started a lot of the businesses from what you learned starting at that. Kind of tell us about your journey starting from wholesaling, your first wholesale deal, and kind of how it transpired into starting Call Magicians, which was the original band, now virtual, was it virtual?
Virtual Help.
Virtualhelp.io. I love to hear about kind of like, give me the cliff notes and how you got to where you are today, man.
Cliff notes, I got started wholesaling because I met a guy at a meetup who a couple of years before that was only making 20 grand, 30 grand a year. And then he was making a couple $100,000 a month, and he started showing me checks. And so I ended up working for him, running a lot of his day-to-day. And then my first deal with him, one of them was I have 2 deals that really stand out at the beginning. One of them, I was just driving around and I called a guy just off and using Mojo Dialer, called the dude. It was a 400 square foot house, and we ended up selling it to my friend Jason Pritchard. And then the other one is I door knocked a guy. His wife had dementia so bad that she was bedridden. And so he had to take care of her. And so he had to quit his job and everything else. And then that one was really showing the impact that you could have. We got him and his wife up in assisted living. And then we ended up wholesaling the house. That was the only time we've ever really given someone money beforehand. But it was a pretty crazy situation. And then from there, ended up working with Alan, ran a lot of the day-to-day, built an in-house call center of a bunch of people at minimum wage in Fresno, California. So a bunch of people with no teeth and some
Meth heads.
Right, meth heads. We had a really good Mexican chick named Mari, whose brothers were in the most notorious gang in the city. And she was awesome. And then eventually we wound that down. I ended up breaking off on my own, doing my own deals and stuff. And Call Magicians kind of came from a need because I was growing my company. I never really had some massive wholesale company, right? I set it up in a way to where I had virtual assistants running all my day-to-day. I didn't have any acquisitions reps. I had a leads manager, probably at any point in time, 8 to 12 cold callers. And then they would all funnel into my leads manager. My leads manager would take it, and then I'd just talk to who I needed to, right? The leads manager was good enough to where you didn't need to have some massive elaborate operation with high overhead. And I was like, yeah, this works. We're texting a lot. We're cold calling a lot. And I have to talk to a certain amount of leads a day, and things are rolling. And then from there, at a point in time, I was going through a bunch of different cold call companies, and they all sucked ass. And so I was like, whatever, I'll just like bring it in house. I brought it in house, and then everybody like started coming to me with help for virtual assistants, and that's kind of how Call Magicians got spun up. And then from there, buying the rentals, I had a single family that really went south, and so I was like, man, I don't really want to do single families anymore. Now we're looking at a pretty big portfolio right now, but it's got the scale enough to do it to where I don't think you make any money with single family houses till you hit at least like 50. Yeah. Like it to be like meaningful and worth the headache, worth the time, worth the effort. And so kind of lost my train of thought there. We spun up Call Magicians, and then my girlfriend actually left her corporate job making 6 figures a year because she wanted to get into real estate. And she's really the one who found like the self-storage stuff. And so then that's really what got me into self-storage.
So is that your main commercial asset right now that you're focusing on, is self-storage? Are you dabbling in anything else other than that?
Self-storage, man, I would love to get into the big boy industrial game. I just need to figure it out. I probably need to go pay someone because we paid a lot of money for storage coaching, but it paid off. But I think storage and triple net industrial are probably the best assets in real estate, just for the fact where it's like truly passive, hands-off. Yeah, with industrial, you have longer vacancies. But I mean, man, you're underwriting a business and seeing like, okay, like what do we think the longevity of this thing is?
So give it an idea, man. Like how many units are in your portfolio currently for self-storage?
We only have, what do we have? Like 30,000 square feet, 35,000 square feet. So nothing crazy.
Okay.
Has it been hurt at all during this, downturn at all? Or
no,
not
for us. We've had the first one I bought 2% interest. What was it? 300 grand down at 900,000. When it's stable, it'll be worth 1.8.
Right.
But that was a learning curve because I thought I didn't need to paint it. I for sure needed to paint it. Right. I was like, I don't need a gate. I for sure needed to put up a gate. And so now I got to throw in a bunch of my own cash into it because I didn't raise enough. And I thought, I was like, oh, bro, we're raising plenty. Yeah. Right. But then it was my first deal. So I was, let's say, very generous on giving our investors massive returns because it was my first like syndication deal. Right. And so I gave up a ton of equity. It was like, I need to perform very well. And then I'm playing the long game because I know they'll just bring me more investors in the long run. They'll be happy. Everything will be good. Moving forward, I will for sure take management fees, construction fees, and then I will protect the equity more. But at the same time, I mean, it's your first like big boy syndication deal. And so you kind of play.
That's how you learn it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, I mean, what's your jam right now? I mean, what's really the biggest producer for you and your all your businesses? Which one's your thing?
The one that makes us the most money that I don't talk about is a company that helps people get the employee retention credit. And then our virtual assistant company does pretty well for us too. And then from there, it's like I'll spin back up the wholesale, and like we have nationwide marketing going on for NODs. Like we bought 40,000 pre-foreclosures across America. Now we just have a bunch of cold callers on it, but I want to buy all those. I don't really want to try and spin up some massive acquisitions company where we're trying to wholesale a bunch of houses. I'd much rather prefer to buy all those and take the cash flow and the passive income.
Gotcha. Well, that's awesome, man. So when you first started, it sounded like you started boots on the ground, driving for dollars, door knocking. You know what I mean? Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. So how long did it take for you to start scaling enough to start building your team? So, what's that timeline look like for you?
And how long did it take? I would go donate blood and plasma at the beginning so I could have someone to help me.
That's what I'm talking about.
So I could have a virtual assistant who could help me do things. Like, so Almi was my first virtual assistant, and I would go donate plasma so I could get her salary so I could just double my efforts. But then I got that because I worked for a guy for like a year and a half. And so like I understood business a little bit more to where a lot of people, when they come in, they don't get leverage, they don't get virtual assistants, they don't get systems, to where I was blessed enough to be with a really good guy. And it was me and my son really with him every day for a year and a half, like my newborn son. And so I was with him every day. He's the reason I think about business the way I do, the way I think about problems the way I do, the way I talk to people the way I do, because he showed me how to be an actual businessman. instead of just some college football player who like came onto the street, had to learn it all himself. Working for him is really what changed it. But when I first got started, like I said, I was donating plasma, and that was so I could have a team member help me send out those text messages. And so Almi would be texting, and we were sending like 5,000 text messages a day. And then I would be cold calling and playing video games during the day. And so like that's like how I got going. It's like I'd just be cold calling all day on Mojo Dialer, and then I'd just be playing games in between, and then Almi'd be sending out text messages. Those would come in, she'd qualify them, send them to me, and then I'd talk to them.
Wow. Did you close virtually at that time, or did you go belly to belly?
It was a mixture.
It was a mixture?
Yeah.
Wow. So what I heard from that is like, man, you did whatever it takes. I mean, you're selling plasma, to keep an employee, right? And then another thing, you worked for somebody that was smarter than you, that knew the business. I don't know about smarter than you, but knew the business better than you. And you learned for a year and a half under that guy.
Yeah, it was the best thing I could ever done in my life. That was a very transformative year and a half. And if you if you read the book like Mastery by Robert Greene, it talks about like a lot of people used to have apprenticeships beforehand. If you look at some, like Jeff Bezos worked for a hedge fund until he was 32, and then he started Amazon. Right, but like all these different, like you got to learn from somewhere. No one's really as smart as they think they are, and everybody learns all of their principles from someone else. Even Warren Buffett, majority of his principles have come from another guy who died 40 years ago.
Dude, I feel that so much, man, because I think like most people, and I'm one of them that started this, I thought I could come in because I've owned other businesses and just figure it out, right? And made a ton of mistakes and lost a lot of money. And I did figure it out, but it would have shortened that curve so much if I would just worked with somebody and picked that up from them.
Yeah, I mean, bro, it's a game changer. Now I still pay a lot of money for coaches too.
Yeah, for
just
sure.
to help poke holes in what I'm doing.
Where are you kind of finding, not where you're finding, but what kind of coaches are currently impacting your life the most right now? Is it kind of business related? Is the inner game?
Business and mindset related. I probably need to get like an operational coach, because like that's not how I operate. I'm a lot more of like the visionary. I don't want anything to do with the day to day. I can think of the system, tell them like, hey, this is what the system needs to do, but then I'm not one to want to be in the weeds and build that out and maintain it every day. Like that's just not who I am. And so probably an operational person will need to be put in my life pretty soon.
So it's interesting you say that, right? Like with your virtual help business, I'm very curious. You obviously have built multiple businesses, require systems, managing people, establishing culture. There's a lot of factors that go into, allowing yourself to continue to operate at a high level. What was, at each of your businesses, is there a specific person that you've put in place to kind of help oversee things? Yeah. Was it originally your VA, or is it someone who kind of has that background experience and now manages your teams?
At a point, the biggest call magicians ever was like 150 people of like a virtual call center.
Wow.
And at that point in time, we hired on a girl who managed 3,000 people, I think, at Alorica. And so she was the operator for that, to where it is like the who, not how can I find someone who's really skilled? So even right now for the stuff we're spinning up in the wholesale side, the first thing is like, okay, we need an ops manager just to manage everything and all that other stuff. And then for our virtual help company, that's managed by Danny, a person down in Mexico. And she's awesome. With the ERC side, that is all pretty much run by a girl named Honey, and she's in the Philippines. And then for my rental stuff, it's me and my assistant and my partner, and then my girlfriend.
I was looking online. It seems like people were kind of leaning in on your ability to find talent, right? You said you found someone in Mexico. You're putting certain people in place. Were these people that you looked for and hired yourself, or did you have someone who just had that skill set to kind of identify talent?
I mean, at the beginning it was me. Now our HR department does it for me, and then I handle the interviews. But we pay a lot of money to like LinkedIn and Indeed and everything else, so I can find like good people who I think will be a good fit in like what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
But then once you have the marketing figured out and the ops figured out, you don't need to necessarily hire as much. The reason I got so good at hiring is because we had to hire so many people for call magicians. Right. And so like I had to get really good at training people up on, number one, training them, but then how do we find the talent? How do we set up the systems in place so we maintain the culture make sure the people are a good fit, manage them the right way. Because a lot of, when you're managing such a large company virtually, a lot of your game becomes like babysitting almost, and like putting in like the right systems and processes so you're not like babysitting all day. And so we had to come up with new systems for that and everything else.
Is there a universal software or team communication tool that you guys use? Typically we hear, Slack. I personally use Skype, but like, you use Slack?
Slack, I moved off of Skype because it's just, it got to be too much. It's not as organized as Slack.
Right.
But Slack, I'm looking into Notion right now. I want to see what I can do with Notion.
Notion is great to organize everything.
Yeah.
Communication is still, to me, because we're all virtual, it's still Slack.
It's like, you mentioned you gamed before. I'm not sure if you still have the time to do that now. And I've been seeing a lot of these, streamers and, business owners using Discord. You guys heard anything about using Discord as a potential team?
I don't like it. There's too much going on the left side. Because you know what I'm saying? Like there's too much shit on the like left side.
I feel that way about Slack sometimes. Like there's like 50 channels in there. I'm like, I have trouble keeping up with 3. So it's just interesting that what people use.
Because you remember I got into the crypto and NFT wave. Two of my friends were making an absolute killing flipping NFTs. And so obviously I went down that rabbit hole and I chased the money. But now my Discord is full of random NFT projects, like to the moon. And so I was like, man, I don't want Discord. I don't get it. Someone else tried to pitch me on it. And I was like, yeah. Cool. And I'm just not a fan.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
So let's kind of circling back to your VA company. So if, say you have a new investor that comes in and he really doesn't know what to do. We've all been there to a certain degree when we first hired a VA, right? So what would be your recommendation? What would be that person's first hire? How would you consult somebody on how to build out their team?
You need someone who can help you market more, I personally think. Nothing else matters at the beginning besides marketing. Mike, do you know Dean Rogers?
Yeah, I know Dean. Absolutely.
Dean was doing a couple $1 million a year on a Google Excel sheet. You know what I'm saying? And so...
Does it have a CRM?
No, he didn't have a CRM for up until like 2 years ago. And he went to RE Simply. But before that, he was on a Google sheet. And he was doing a couple $1 million a year.
He's just taking action.
Just taking action, right? So you really just need people to help you bring in more leads, because it's not a real estate company, no matter anybody says. It is a sales and marketing business. Wholesaling, flipping is a sales and marketing business. You really aren't a real estate investor until you start buying stuff and holding it.
I agree.
What are you seeing right now working the best from a marketing channel? Is it direct mail? Is it SMS, cold calling? If you had to pick, the best 2, what would you recommend?
I probably missed out on the SMS wave because I was using Roar right before it started to taper off. And then when it started, I had to like maintain the text messages all the time and like have a person have to learn like a new thing all the time. I quit doing texting altogether. And like we just kept cold calling. Because like at a point in time, Roar couldn't deliver to people with AT&T phone numbers in the state of California, blah, blah, blah. There was launch control. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to deal with it. I think right now still cold calling and PPC are really good. And then we will send mail for our storage stuff. But we still cold call. I have someone in the Philippines cold calling storage stuff.
What fascinates me with the whole, being in the education space for over 10 years, most education products take people up to the cold call or when their phone starts ringing, and that's when terror sets in, right? I think most of your client base coming through virtual help is, okay, I don't want to do these things, or I'm too scared to do these things. What advice do you have to them in terms of, if you've never done it and you hire someone to do it, most people are like, well, you need to know before you can hire someone. What is your advice on that? Is that true? Can you actually hire out your weaknesses and not have to manage that process even if you've never done it before?
At the beginning, I think you need to do it first so you can know how to grade someone on it.
I agree.
Because it's really easy to get fleeced. Like in anything. And because like it'll happen, let's say you're doing $100 million a year and you just need to know what it takes and like what the timeline should be, in my personal opinion. I'm not doing $100 million a year, but for example, at the beginning, I hired on some cold callers when I first broke off from Alan. And I don't know why I didn't manage them, but then a month had passed and I was like, where are my leads? Well, I hadn't talked to them in a month. Yeah. And then they say that they're real estate experienced, cold calling extraordinaires, blah, blah, blah. But then if I didn't listen to them and manage them, then nothing's going to happen. So like at the beginning, you at least need to know how a good call should go before you want to outsource it. Some people are completely different, but I still think you need to audit a company that you use, right? Because like there's some people who say, oh, you need to outsource it. It's not worth it. Well, bro, how do you know if you're really getting good results?
Sure.
Yeah, I think the exact opposite. I think you have to bring it in-house to get the best results. You know what I mean? But whatever, whatever floats your boat. But I 100% agree that you got to know something about it, because everybody's going to give you some BS story of why they can't execute. If you don't understand it, if you can't call them on their BS, Ben, then I mean, that's, you don't know any different, right?
Yep.
And especially VAs is tough because, I mean, either, we had Colombians, we've had Philippines, great on both, but totally different type of personalities. But you got to stay on top of it. You got to stay on top of them. You know what I mean? When you get good ones and you're able to track them, that's great. But whenever they're bad, they might not only be working for you. You know what I mean? They could be working for multiple people, stuff like that, man. So it's crazy.
Yeah, and so our rule is, I don't care if you have 2 jobs, but you just can't work 2 jobs at the same time during the day.
Yeah,
right. Like I am not here to control how you go outside and make money with the skill sets you have, but there's no need for you to double time us. And then it's automatic termination. And then they don't get paid their last check. Anybody who violates any HR rules doesn't get paid any checks.
Hold on. Let's repeat that, because I think that's gold right there. Right. So you're paying them for they do the work, and you're paying them after they've already done the work. And if they violate anything, they just do not get their paycheck.
Yeah. So and our pay periods are 2 weeks behind.
2 weeks.
So they work. Yeah. So like they work and then they don't get paid on that, like for like 3 more weeks.
How did you ramp them up to that? Because some of the most VAs, they can't do that, man. They need a job right away, right? So did you give them some type of advance until they got there or not?
No.
Okay.
That's just what we bring them in on. This is how it is.
Wow. Gotcha.
And then that way, like if we had one dude who abandoned his job. He was a great person for us. And then everybody coming in says if they abandon their job at any point in time, then they forfeit their pay. Like 100%. And we have documentation, HR SOPs, and everything else. So that way, because let's say if that dude left, not only do I lose out on his salary time, but then I lose out on all of that production over that span of time and all the balls he dropped on whatever leads that person was working in that business. And this guy was a sales rep and he was making us a lot of money. And he had a base salary. But then at that point, if you abandon your job, then we aren't going to pay you. Like it's over. Like nobody gets paid if they abandon during training or if they quit during training. If we fire them, 100% they get paid because it's our choice, right? And we want to get them back out into the job market. We pay them and then keep on moving. But if anybody like violates any like really bad rules, right? Like we still have like 3-strike policies and everything else. But if they're double timing, if they were lying about any type of working hours, then 100% they don't get paid and they get terminated automatically. Because if you lied about it once, you've been lying about it before, and we just can't trust you.
Yeah. Oh, I've had them cuss out clients. Like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? It's like literally cuss them out. I'm like, oh my God, that's a complete nightmare. One second, because I just picked up on something that he said. You have VAs closing deals?
Yeah.
Okay. Talk to us about that, because some people think that it's not possible. I do as well, but only on the land side, not on the house side. Do you have it on the house side as well?
We don't have it on the house side.
Okay.
Well, that's what I'm going to spin up here soon. But I think it's a little hard if you want to handle the acquisition yourself. Because like, let's say I'm not trying to wholesale a bunch of houses. I'm trying to buy them and like buy good sub-2 deals. I don't trust anybody but myself to negotiate those deals. Mm-hmm. You know, like maybe another wholesaler could bring it and I can buy it from a wholesaler, but I really want the good terms. And I feel like I can negotiate the best terms for something like that. And that's probably a limiting belief, but that's just my personal opinion. If it's just wholesaling houses, yeah, we could. With our ERC stuff, which I think is a lot harder of a sell, we have people selling that all day. And that's fine. But expats have what I've found is the best. And that's generally in like South America. We have some people in the Philippines who are really, really good. But at this point, we've hired and interviewed thousands of people. And I found only a couple.
Yeah, that's fair.
I can tell just from the 20 minutes we've been talking, Sean, you're a really intelligent person. It seems like you really know people, right? Something you kind of just experience by doing. And one of the things you mentioned earlier that I wanted to come back to is culture, right? You've talked about, having an HR department, having set kind of policies. And I got to say, a lot of businesses I work with don't even have those when they more than likely should, especially when they get to like 25, 50 people in their company. And, it just kind of shows how smart you are with kind of how serious you are when it comes to running a business. So I want to type into that culture vein. What was kind of like a big culture implementation that you've done that has really kind of built, that team camaraderie, or, when people do want to stick around, they don't, they abandon their jobs or things like that. Like, what was kind of a big move for y'all?
Bro, it's hard. I would say the hardest thing I've run into is building a great culture virtually across the large scale. And I would just talk about like my number one failure in Call Magicians. I was not a good enough leader to have my leadership be potent enough across 7 different countries, across 150 people, the way I wanted it to be, right? Because at that point, with the call center, you are selling and scaling people. And so in order to do that, your culture has to be unmatched. And so I think that was like where we fell. The tips I can give is be unwavering on your culture. Like, be unwavering on your company's core values. A lot of companies don't have core values. Get them immediately, because that's how you're going to be able to guide, steer the ship, and hold people accountable. So core values helped out a ton. And then when we hired and that person didn't match the core values, we felt it. And like, if you make one bad hire of some woke, that'll hurt the culture. Like, I've had it happen.
Okay.
We hired a woke person as a trainer, and I was like, how the did this person slip into this? Like, this is not the type of culture we want in this company. Implementing reading books as like an upper management staff. So like, we would read Turn the Ship Around, Jocko Willink books, Napoleon Hill books. That helped out a lot. Taking feedback from certain employees. So Honey, I was talking to her yesterday. She was like, hey, I just had my old people reach out to me, blah, blah, blah. They paid her more. She had more, like, let's say she had more authority at that other role. She's like, but I like how you will take my feedback and you will listen to it and you'll say, hey, I don't agree with this, but I agree with this. Awesome. Let's move forward. Right. So like, taking their feedback and letting them feel like they have an impact on the company, I think is really big. And so like, we would have, hey, random, what is the word? Right. Like, we'd allow like random feedback that could be anonymous. Like, hey, what are you guys feeling? Blah, blah, blah. Holding people accountable. The daily meetings, every meeting we start with is what's something you're grateful for and something good that happened to you.
I like that.
And I got that one from Rafael Cortez, actually. And I got that from Rafael like 3 or 4 years ago. But it helps out a lot, because it's so hard to get to know someone virtually on a Zoom call, because I'm a lot more of a hands-off person. Like, again, once I set it up, I'm going to empower this person and tell them, hey, this is what I want done. I don't care how you do it, but I want it done in this amount of time. And then I will not jump into it again unless things are not working. Then I have to go dive in and like, I'll double check when it's done. Like, I'm just kind of letting them run the thing, because I want to hire really smart people and let them do their thing.
I'm really naturally curious about, when people establish core values, where does that get, where do you pull that from? Is it just like you're creating a checklist of things that I do and do not like, or is there a process in place that you've used? Are you getting feedback from your team past, things that didn't work in the past? Like, is core values like a checklist, or is how could you define core values is what I'm trying to get to.
Core values is how everyone operates in their lives who works for you. Because again, as you're growing a company, you're growing people, and the better we can make them, the better off the company will be, and then the better off their lives will be. Like, no joke. I say we are going to be the best no matter what we do. If you are having sex with your significant other, you need to be the fucking best. End of story.
The best.
Like, that is what we are aiming for. Right? So in every aspect, we want to be the best dad, best wife, best husband. If you're going out and playing pickleball, you should fucking dominate and bury the other person. But like, we want to be the best. And so that's one of our core values. Strive for excellence. Like, we are always, always striving for excellence. Care 360, right? We care about you. We care about everybody around us. We care about our clients. And then integrity. right? And with those things, I can hold people pretty accountable to no matter what's going on. But like those are like the outputs that I'm thinking of to where I need to implement that in my life. What is my son? I do affirmations with him every day. The number one thing, my name is Zeno Brown and I'll outwork everybody. My name is Zeno Brown and I don't lie, right? But like I'm implementing these things and thought processes with him, and it's no different when we're growing people. Because not a lot of people want to be the best and work hard and everything else. And so we have to hold those people accountable to the standard that we've set. It's really hard. Don't get me wrong. But like that's what we are aiming for every day.
I mean, I don't know if it's hard or not. The hard part is whenever you have to let somebody go that doesn't follow it or doesn't fall in line.
Exactly.
Right? That's the hard part. The easy part, because everything's top down. If we're leading our staff, our business, if we're leading our family, it's top down, right? I mean, so core values is what is important to you as an individual. And then anybody that orbits you has to fall into that or it just doesn't work, right?
Yep.
And so what I've always found that worked really well was that every decision we made because of the core value, especially the hard ones where I got to let somebody go, especially they're a high producer, but they violated it, and there's a part of you going, God, man, that's a high producer. That's going to hurt. But as soon as you let that person go, it puts everybody else on blast, and it's like, it's a non-negotiable and it changes everything.
No one's safe, right? You know what I mean?
Well, everybody's safe if they fall into core values and what we're trying to do, right? So I love what you said about your son, man. I love that. Like we have a similar thing with our kids. We like Singletaries do hard things, Now, some of them are so young, they don't know what a hard thing is. So now we're implementing, like when they're going through a struggle, hey, this is what hard things feels like. You know what I mean? The Alex Woodsy says, saying. And it's just about consistency of message. Consistency of message, and then you doing the exact same things.
I quit saying we're a family though, because then people get too comfortable. Because yes, we are a family, but at the same time, and who did I get this from? I think I got this from the CEO of Salesforce or the CEO of Shopify. He was like, we're a fucking sports team.
Yeah.
He was like, because our goal is to stay in business. If I have a family and a brother with Down syndrome, I'm taking care of him no matter what.
Right.
In a sports team, if your running back ain't doing shit, we're getting a new fucking running back. So if you are not producing, we still love you. It is not personal, but like you are hindering the overall collective. Every decision that we make.
That's our number one core value. That's our first one, results. Like if you're not getting results, man, I'm sorry. I love you, but you got to go, You got
to go.
Yeah.
Because like everybody can preach family and make it that way, but like really I'm concerned about results. Are our clients getting results? Are we getting results? What does that look like? Because if you say family, I don't like the vibe of it. I want more high achievers. And yes, like it can be family, but everyone in my family, I'm pushing to be a high achiever anyways. Like myself and my significant other, we're really high achievers. Like we're actually striving to grow all the time. If you're not matching that and producing results, then it's a different thing.
I got to tell you guys, this is like, I feel like I'm at the beginning of my journey. Like just what we were talking about earlier, Mike, right? Feeling overwhelmed. It's like, I feel like I'm doing good. I'm hiring right people. But just based on what you just said right there, Stratton, it's got me really self-reflecting on my own business, certain client partnerships and things like that, right? We tend to, if you don't have conviction in your core values, you typically fall back into, completely honest, just making terrible decisions, right? That kind of ultimately put you in a spot. You're like, how did I get here? So, well, if I just followed my freaking core values, I would be fine. So it's really important, those who are listening to this, we're so focused on building a system and a process and buying using CRMs and at the foundation of your business as you grow teams. I think core values, and I've heard this multiple times with, people who are in multiple businesses, that's at the center of it all. So if you're listening, you don't have that done yet, kind of really get intentional with creating core values. Man, that is going to be the foundation of everything else you build. Would you guys agree to that?
Oh yeah, and it sounds stupid at the beginning, but I promise you it's not.
I felt that way. I felt that I was like, dude, like who the hell's going to be listening to this right here? Like
exactly
my own Kool-Aid. But then I think what's really cool, I don't know if anybody caught this, is if you kind of keep relaying that to your core values when you're having team meetings, when you're hiring, when you're firing, when you're talking to clients and doing these things, it starts to become part of the culture. That's what I think. It's so hard to find what culture is, but I think it's consistency in your and conviction in your core values. That's where core values comes from. I mean, that's where I think culture comes from. At least that's what I'm interpreting.
Well, I mean, if you want to do anything at scale, you have to know how to lead people.
Yeah.
That's just, because you can't do it on your own, right? You can't do anything at scale on your own without having the ability to have people buy in to what you're trying to do. And you got to be able to lead them effectively. They got to believe in you, right? And that's just like a core value. It's one step. It's a big step, but that's just one step of how to effectively lead people, because everybody has or wants boundaries. They want to know what is acceptable and not acceptable. You know what I mean?
So that's just, most of the people who are working through, your virtual help company, do you guys offer like that kind of help when they don't know how to manage a person correctly, or you guys can easily identify, okay, this person's one of our best VAs. You're in the bed, not capitalizing their efforts or management. Do you guys have something in place that can educate them, or at least provide that guidance?
Yeah. So what we do now, when we're bringing them in, we're going to help them build out all their systems and processes for the role that they need filled. Right. To where like, hey, I need help with operations. Awesome. Let's sit down, get on some Zoom calls, draw out whatever we need to. And then whenever we're bringing in someone, like, all right, hey, here it is, the HR procedures that we follow that we think will benefit you immensely. If you don't like that, cool. And some people don't. They don't like being as intense. I'm just like, this is what I have found that makes my life easier, and it stops me from losing lots of money. Like it has saved me a lot of, like, 5 figures a month at times from implementing those things. Right. And so that's that. And then we'll place them, and I tell everybody, fire fast. Like, if the person's really not impressing you, like, let's get someone new. I want people who are going to stick with you for years. Right? So our main people have been with us for a really long time, and it took a while for us to find those people. So we offer a 90-day guarantee on those people. And I'm just like, hey, if they're not working out really within the first little bit, let's go get someone new. It's okay. Like, this is business, but our goal is to find you someone who's going to work with you for the rest of your life. Like, how can you get someone who's just going to keep growing with you, working with you, and helping you out with everything, as long as this business is going on, or if you want to move to another business? I've moved people around in my businesses who have just been with me, and I'm like, hey, I need this seat filled. I know you have the capacity and wherewithal to handle this. We're going to do this. I'm like, awesome, sweet. And they know that I care about them. They know I love them. They know I take care of them whenever they need. And so they're going to go get it done.
So do you offer continuous education for them? What does that look like for your client?
No, I haven't. To be truthful, I haven't found, I don't think there's a need for continuous education. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think like we could get it done in like a hour. Like, hey, here's the way you should operate and the way you should manage and set things up that'll make things go a lot easier for you. I don't see a need to do like a monthly call or anything else. Maybe you guys do, and I'm missing out on an opportunity to make some money. But I think on the first initial call, we could really help them set up what they need. And then if they have any other questions or something going on, they can reach out to us and we'll help them out with it.
What's your perfect client? What's your avatar?
My perfect client would be someone who's doing a couple deals a month and needs help building systems and processes and putting people in place.
Okay. And tell us your company again. Of course, we're going to put a link down below.
Virtualhelp.io.
Virtualhelp.io. Awesome, man. Stratton, man, this is great. I appreciate you coming on. I feel like we're kind of living the same life almost. You know what I mean? So, but I love how candid you are, man. You have any questions? You have any other things, Frank?
No, man, I want to first thank you for your time today. I learned a lot just kind of seeing your mindset behind running a business and managing people. All I knew about you before was, okay, he's a guy who's behind Call Magicians. That was it, right? And there's so much more to you, so many layers to that. And I think it's really cool is when people kind of get involved with your companies, they're also getting a part of you. And I hope, everyone who's listening today can kind of understand kind of how hungry Stratton is and his ability to just, attack everything with everything he's got. So, man, I gotta, applaud you for that, man. I think,
thank you.
It's not that you need that. It's just, you've inspired me today. And it's not, I'm around these high achievers all the time. And it's just cool to see, like, how old are you?
I'm 28.
You see that shit, man? You see that? You see this fucking shit, man? That's insane, bro. Like, what are your excuses out there? I'm turning 38, and I'm like, holy, I gotta do more. I gotta do more. So if you're listening to our call today, you guys, you enjoy this, feel free to reach out to virtualhelp.io. They're a great company. He's been have tons of experience working with real estate investors, not just from a leads management or marketing. It's so much more than that. So definitely go check them out. That's all I got for you guys today, man. I really enjoyed today's episode. Thank you for your time, man.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
man.
thank you guys so much for having me
I
on.
appreciate you guys. I appreciate you, man. I love that your standard is greatness, brother.
Yeah.
You know?
I have a 2-year-old son. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna do that right now when he gets home from daycare. I'll be like, all right, let's do our affirmations. I love that. So I'm gonna borrow that from you guys.
Awesome, man.
Well, cheers, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Absolutely. Peace out.
All right, bye, guys.
So that's a wrap. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you received value from this episode. If so, please share this podcast with your friends so we can help more people just like you. Also, hook up with us on Facebook, IG, and YouTube at Real Talks. That's REIL Talks. So until next time, keep it cool and keep it real.